Outside the palace gates, the exam candidates waited anxiously. Has the list of those who passed been posted yet? Not yet. It seems there's no announcement, someone replied. At the back of the crowd, Lee Sunji sighed. There are too many people in front. I can't even see the announcement board. Suddenly, the massive palace doors creaked open. Two officials appeared, walking toward the notice board with stern expressions. The tension among the candidates grew thicker. Eyes widened, hearts pounded. This was the moment that would decide their futures. One of the officials spread glue across the board and pressed a long sheet of paper onto it. In an instant, the crowd erupted. "That's the list of those who passed," shouted a man in yellow, pointing excitedly. Within seconds, everyone pushed forward, shouting, some in joy, others in despair. Lee Sunji squinted, trying to sharpen his vision, but still couldn't see a thing. Before he could react, his body suddenly lifted off the ground. "What the?" he exclaimed in shock. He looked down and saw Shorty grinning up at him. "Put me down, Shorty," Shorty laughed. "Now you can see it, right?" Lee Sunji chuckled. "Aren't I too heavy?" Shorty shrugged. "I ruined your chance to get a good spot earlier, so this is the least I can do. Hurry and take a look, young master." But Shorty began to wobble, making it even harder for Sunji to focus. "You're moving too much, I can't see." Just then, a royal official took out a loudspeaker and announced, "Silence! We will now call the names of those who passed. Please step forward when your name is called. Jung Han, born in the year of the wood monkey. Lee Sunji, born in the year of the wood rooster. Lee Kangjin, born in the year of the fire." Dog Lee Sunji's eyes went wide. Shorty nudged him. "Pretty sure they just called your name, young master?" Sunji quickly nodded. "Yes, that's me." "I'll go forward." He approached the official holding the announcement list. "I am Lee Sunji, born in the year of the wood rooster. My hometown is Yangsung. Here's my exam badge." The official checked the list and nodded. "Confirmed. Stand over there." While the officials counted the successful candidates, two young men whispered nearby. "What are they doing up there?" "No idea," the other replied. "Those who passed were invited inside the palace, while those who failed could only watch in despair. I'm already 40. What should I do now? I'm too ashamed to return home," one muttered bitterly. Inside the royal hall, King Sejong reviewed the exam results. A total of 185 candidates passed the final exam. We did increase the passing number, yet it's still fewer than usual. The left minister stepped forward and explained, "Some passed both the practical and literary exams, but they were disqualified due to scoring below 20 in arithmetic." King Sejong's expression hardened. "They passed the national magistrate exam. What a shame to lose them over that." The minister nodded. "Yes, your majesty. But it would take tremendous time and effort to teach them arithmetic and science from scratch." Hearing this, King Sejong struck his knee and said firmly, "I see. Those who passed are the true talents of the court. Make sure they are used to their fullest potential." He continued, "Now then, aside from selecting them, what are your plans for those who have completed their training and earned rankings?" An official replied, "First, like the scholars of the Royal Academy, they'll be ranked based on their academic performance in science and arithmetic. After that, they will be evenly distributed among the 6 ministries according to the agreement. Following a 3-month probation period, they will receive their official appointments." King Sejong nodded, visibly pleased. "Good. But will there be any disputes over their distribution among the 6 ministries?" The room was filled with confidence. The right minister answered, "There won't be any, your majesty. We've nearly reached a full consensus." King Sejong stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Very well. But what if some wish to attend the Royal Academy instead?" The left minister responded, "In that case, they'll start from the lowest rank. However, if we think about it carefully, their contributions here will be far more beneficial than studying at the academy." King Sejong fell silent for a moment, lost in thought. Then he murmured, But not everyone will agree with that." Outside the palace, an official stood before the newly selected candidates. "You will begin working after completing your training?" Suddenly, a chubby scholar raised his hand and asked, "I plan to take the imperial examination. Will I still be allowed to attend the Royal Academy?" The official replied firmly, "No. Starting this year, the Royal Academy system will be reformed. All current scholars will be dismissed from their posts, and the qualifications for the state exam will also change." The crowd fell silent. Everyone listened intently. After passing the official examination, the official continued, "Those who wish to serve in positions related to rituals and Confucian studies will go to the Royal Academy. Meanwhile, the rest will be assigned to low-ranking positions within the palace. They will undergo training and a probation period before receiving official appointments. In addition, there will be periodic promotion exams. Once they reach the required rank, they must pass supplementary tests before being eligible for the state examination." After finishing his explanation, the official concluded, "That is how the system will work from now on." The chubby scholar raised his hand again. "So, you're saying I can't take the imperial exam right away?" The official stared at him coldly, irritation rising within. If someone like this became my colleague or subordinate, it would be a disaster, he thought. With a flat voice, he said, "Were you not listening to my explanation earlier? You fool, get out of here." The scholar froze, his face turning pale with embarrassment. Wait, did I just get kicked out? He muttered weakly. The official slammed his hand on the table and barked, You failed! You insolent fool! But the scholar refused to back down. Fueled by anger, he shouted, Do you even know who I am? How dare you speak to me like that? The official, now completely fed up, sneered. Then enlighten me. The chubby man puffed out his chest proudly. My father's uncle is the former Minister of Public Works, and my cousin works at the Ministry of Justice. Hearing that, the official who had been observing from the side scoffed. In the end, that still makes you a nobody. The fat scholar's face twisted with rage. What did you just say, you arrogant bastard? The official lost his patience and shouted to the guards, Go to the office of the Inspector General and summon Second Inspector Song immediately. If anyone asks, tell them Inspector Third Class Kang from the Ministry of Personnel called for him. They'll understand. After issuing the order, he pointed at the scholar and snapped, How dare you, you insignificant worm? Acting all high and mighty just because of your connections? Do you think I failed you out of personal spite? This is a royal decree. The one backing me is His Majesty the King himself. Moments later, Inspector Song arrived. Impressive words, Inspector Kang, he said with a smirk. Inspector Kang replied, Inspector Song, how did you get here so quickly? Song, his tone sharp and intense, answered, I had a feeling something like this would happen, so I stationed my men nearby to keep watch. Then, with a commanding voice, he shouted, What are you waiting for? Drag this fool out of here. The chubby scholar struggled as the guards seized him, his voice trembling with desperation. Please, give me another chance. I beg you, spare me. Meanwhile, Inspector Song turned to address the remaining candidates. If any of you behave inappropriately during training or probation, fail to perform your duties, or cause trouble in any way, you will be dismissed immediately, understood? All of them responded in unison. Yes, sir. Inside the government office, 2 officials were speaking. Inspector Song, I heard there was an incident during the announcement ceremony. Is that true? Yes, Inspector General. Good. Then send this report, said the Inspector General. Inspector Song took a golden pen in his hand, smirking slyly. Leave it to me. I can already smell corruption in the air. In the royal chamber, King Sejong was reading the report that had just been submitted to him. His hands trembled with anger. They just passed the exam, and they're already acting arrogant? How confident must he be in his connections? Does he think he's on the same level as Ryu Jung-hyun? The officials immediately bowed and cried out together, Your Majesty, please forgive us! King Sejong rose abruptly, clenching his fists in fury. No, my ministers, there is no need for you to apologize. If someone dares to cause trouble for royal officials, I can already imagine what kind of misconduct they've committed, without even seeing it myself. Then he commanded, Order the Royal Investigation Bureau to thoroughly investigate the relatives mentioned by that man and uncover every violation they've committed. The Chief State Counselor bowed deeply. As you command, Your Majesty. Meanwhile, in another corner of the palace, a group of scholars walked together. Then Lee Sunji asked the official guiding them, Sir, where are we being taken? To the Eastern Palace, the senior official replied curtly. That answer left everyone shocked. What? Why are we, who just passed the exam, being sent to the Crown Prince's residence? The official tried to reassure them. Don't worry. If anyone sees you, they'll just think you're being thrown into a tiger's den. Then, in a low voice, he muttered, Though honestly, the tiger's den might be the better option. Lee Sunji, who overheard him, quietly remarked, I heard that, sir. Moments later, a voice echoed through the hall. Welcome, everyone. The deputy head of the research institute stepped forward and bowed. I am Jung Cho, deputy head of this research institute. The young scholars bowed respectfully in return. Greetings, sir. The deputy head chuckled inwardly. They're still full of energy, he thought, but that won't last long. My apologies, new recruits. Please, have a seat first. Yes, sir, the young scholars replied, taking their seats. Lee Sunji looked around and thought to himself, As I expected, this place feels strangely familiar. He gripped the edge of his chair tightly, emotion swirling within him. My heart's racing, but somehow it feels comforting. I've never felt this before. His mind drifted back to the day he discovered an old arithmetic book in his grandfather's attic. In that moment, countless questions filled his young mind, unanswered yet exhilarating. The sensation he felt now was exactly the same as when he first uncovered the principles of arithmetic. Then the deputy head spoke again. Now, I'll explain your next assignment. Is there anyone here familiar with the arithmetic method from India? Lee Sunji raised his hand. I am, sir. The deputy head looked surprised. As far as I know, that method hasn't spread widely. How did you come to learn it? I studied it while interacting with foreign merchants, sir. Jung Cho smiled faintly. Oh, I see. Impressive. Does anyone else know this method? When no one responded, Jung Cho turned back to Lee Sunji. So, you're the only one. What's your name? My name is Lee Sunji. Jung Cho frowned slightly, then smiled as he recognized the name. Ah, so you're that Lee Sunji. Inwardly, Jung Cho mused. You barely passed on the first day, yet you scored the highest in arithmetic. Then he addressed the class. You will study Indian numerals again with the other scholars. Once you've mastered them, we'll move on to advanced arithmetic. Finally, you'll undergo special training for your assigned duties. You're given 1.5 months to return home, share the good news with your families, and then report back to Hanyang. The Crown Prince has high expectations for all of you, and so do I. Let's do our best. The young scholars responded in unison. We'll do our best, sir. That evening, the Lee household was filled with noise and chatter. Has Sunji not come home yet? Not yet. They say he passed the exam, so don't worry too much. Even so, his father looked uneasy. Sunji's good at fooling around. I just hope he doesn't end up with some trivial job that embarrasses our family. His mother, who had been silent all along, spoke calmly, but her words cut deep. Even if he passes both the lower and higher state exams, he'll still need a noble background to rise to a high position. Do you really think our family is like that? Her words stung, and her husband replied bitterly, And are you so sure our son is talented enough to reach that level? He may be well-mannered, but that sharp tongue of his will get him into trouble one day, even if he does succeed. Just then, a shout came from outside. Young Master Sunji has returned, cried Shorty. His mother greeted him with a joyful smile, while his father immediately bombarded him with questions. I heard you were summoned to the palace. What happened? He asked. Lee Sunji smiled. Let's go inside first. I'll tell you everything. Night soon fell. Soldiers began patrolling the streets, ensuring that the curfew was strictly enforced. Inside the Lee household, the conversation was still ongoing. Sunji's father, still struggling to believe what he had heard, asked, You said you were summoned where again? Lee Sunji replied, To the Joseon Institute of Science and Technology Development. It's an independent research institution under the direct supervision of the Crown Prince, separate from the 6 ministries. They value people who excel in mathematics and calculations. His parents exchanged surprised glances before bursting into joy and embracing him tightly. My son, you're incredible. To work for the Crown Prince himself. What an honor. We must celebrate this with a feast. Meanwhile, at the Research Institute, Jang Yongsil was deeply engrossed in his work. Will this method really work? He wondered silently. Suddenly, someone called out to him. Royal Advisor Jang, so you were here. What is it? He asked. The Crown Prince is requesting your presence. Without hesitation, Jang Yongsil set off immediately. When he arrived at the palace, he saw Hyang standing there. Greetings, Your Highness, Jang said with a respectful bow. Without turning around, Hyang spoke in a firm tone. Advisor Jang, I've received the latest results from the regular inspection. This is the first audit since the institute was established. Then he turned sharply to face him, his gaze intense. No matter how many times I've reviewed it, you were wrong. I've already spoken to the royal attendants. Change into your formal attire. Now. Confused Jang Yongsil replied, Yes, Your Highness, though his thoughts were spinning. Why is His Highness acting so cold all of a sudden? Did I make some grave mistake? Throughout the walk, Hyang urged him on impatiently. Hurry up. Yes, Your Highness, Jang replied, still puzzled. Then, out of nowhere, Hyang smiled. You arrived just in time. 3 craftsmen approached and bowed deeply. Greetings, Your Highness. May peace and prosperity be with you. Hyang glanced at Jang Yongsil and introduced them. These are craftsmen from the weapons division. You'll be working with them from now on. Advisor Jang's heart sank. Is His Highness planning to replace me? His mind drifted back to their very first meeting. How strange yet amusing it had been. Lost in his own thoughts, Jang didn't even realize where he was standing. It's time to wake up from this dream, he thought to himself. Suddenly, Hyang's voice broke through his thoughts. Father, they've arrived. Jang slowly opened his eyes and realized where he was. Hyang stood before him, bowing respectfully. Thank you, Father, for granting my request. Seated on the throne, King Sejong replied calmly. It's nothing. This is simply what a king should do. You've done well, Crown Prince Advisor Jang and the 3 craftsmen beside him were taken aback. Immediately, they fell to their knees. This humble servant bows before His Majesty the King. King Sejong smiled gently. Do not say that. You are all my subjects. How could I consider you lowly? Besides, as the Crown Prince mentioned, haven't you all worked tirelessly for the past year? Then he turned to the Secretary of the Ministry of Personnel. Read the royal decree I issued. The official lifted a scroll and read aloud. Yes, Your Majesty. By the command of His Majesty the King, I, the Secretary of the Ministry of Personnel, hereby decree Jang Yong-sil, senior official of the 6th rank at the Joseon Institute of Science and Technology Development, is hereby promoted to the position of senior section chief 5th rank. Advisor Jang's eyes widened in disbelief. He slowly raised his head, glancing at Hyang, who was already looking at him with a warm, knowing smile. Hyang bowed respectfully as the decree was read aloud. Overwhelmed with emotion, Advisor Jang couldn't hold back his tears. So the Crown Prince never intended to get rid of me, he thought to himself, his heart swelling with gratitude. The Secretary of the Ministry of Personnel continued reading. In addition, I hereby appoint Gong Pilbok, Jung Man-soo, and Choi Chil-deok, all from the Weapons Division, to the rank of 8th grade officials and order their transfer to the Joseon Institute of Science and Technology Development. The craftsmen were deeply moved, unable to hold back their tears. When the ceremony concluded, King Sejong spoke again, his tone now firmer. The reason I personally promoted you is not merely to reward your hard work, but to remind you, promotion comes with greater responsibility. Never forget that. The Crown Prince and I have placed great expectations upon you. He glanced at Hyang, and their eyes met. Well then, Crown Prince, do you think this will suffice? Yes, father. More than enough, Hyang replied with a satisfied smile. This will surely motivate them further. It'll help them grow and unlock their full potential, ultimately improving the entire institute's performance. Advisor Zhang bowed deeply. We are deeply grateful, Your Majesty. We will devote our lives to meeting your expectations. The next morning, Lee Sunji was in an exceptionally good mood. He swung his arms cheerfully as he walked, like a lucky cat bringing fortune. The weather is perfect today, he exclaimed joyfully. Shorty approached and asked, How did you sleep last night, sir? Lee Sunji grinned. Very well. Did you and Nanny sleep well too? Shorty chuckled softly. The small house had been gifted to him by his parents. It had 3 rooms, one for Shorty, one for the nanny who had raised him since childhood, and one for himself. At the Research Institute, the deputy head welcomed the returning scholars warmly. It's wonderful to see you all again. It's been a month and a half, hasn't it? I'm glad to see you're all in good health. The young scholars bowed in unison, expressing their respect. Suddenly a voice came from outside. So these are the scholars who passed the examination? The deputy head immediately responded with respect. Yes, Your Highness. At that moment, the entire room fell silent. Mouths hung open, eyes widened in disbelief. The Crown Prince. Is it really him? They wondered silently. Hyang walked in with firm, confident steps. The scholars, realizing who stood before them, immediately bowed deeply. We humbly greet Your Highness, the Crown Prince. Hyang greeted each of them one by one, until his gaze fell on Lee Sunji, who seemed to capture his attention more than the others. Hyang stopped in front of him, but Sunji didn't respond right away. He was lost in a familiar scent. I know this smell, he thought, inhaling deeply. Hyang smiled and called out to him. Lee Sunji? Startled, Sunji immediately bowed. Yes, Your Highness. It's an honor to meet you. But his mind was still drifting. Hyang looked at him proudly. Your performance in the exam was truly exceptional. Sunji blushed. Your Highness flatters me. I'm just an ordinary man. Hyang turned to Jung Cho and said, Don't be so modest. Even Lord Jung Cho admitted this year's exam was extremely difficult. Jung Cho added, Indeed. Since the questions required practical application of arithmetic principles, some of them were quite challenging. As Hyang smiled at him, Lee Sunji's conviction grew stronger. Yes, this scent, it's the scent of a true comrade. After greeting everyone, Hyang spoke with confidence. I trust that each of you will go on to achieve great things. The young scholars, filled with passion and pride, replied in unison, We will dedicate our lives to it. Then Hyang turned to Jung Inji. You'll be overseeing their training, correct? That's right, Your Highness. I'll fulfill my duty to the best of my ability, Jung Inji answered with full dedication. As the scholars followed him toward the main building, Hyang thought to himself, Lee Sunji. That name sounds familiar. Isn't he an important figure in history? This is what happens when you study only for the exams. Jung Inji began leading them on a tour of the institute. This is the study hall where you'll spend the next few months. Each table will seat 3 people. Scholar Lee Sunji, you'll sit alone at the back. He then raised his voice. From this moment forward, you're no longer just scholars. You are apprentices of the Joseon Institute of Science and Technology Development. I am Jung Inji, and I'll be overseeing your training. You will address your instructors as professor and respond with, Yes, Professor. Do you understand? Yes, Professor, the students replied in unison. Good, he nodded in satisfaction. Now, allow me to introduce the professor who will teach you the fundamentals of Indian number theory for your first lesson. The doors opened, and as the professor stepped inside, the students were taken aback. The man stood tall and dignified, his presence commanding the room. Whispers began to spread among the students. His skin is so dark. How could someone like him be in the royal palace? Hearing the murmurs, Jung Inji's expression hardened. How dare you speak so rudely? This man is a distinguished scholar from the kingdom of Persia, personally invited by His Majesty the King. Such disrespect will not be tolerated. You've lost merit points, and your conduct will be evaluated. Those with the lowest marks at the end of training will be expelled. The students immediately bowed their heads. We're deeply sorry, Professor. We'll remember this lesson. The man looked at them calmly before giving a slight bow. My name is Jahandar Hassan, but during this training, you may call me Professor Jahan. I will be teaching you about the Hindu-Arabic numeral system. I understand your Kugo language, though not perfectly, but rest assured, I am fully capable of explaining everything clearly. Lee Sunji watched him with intense curiosity. So, he's the one who created the arithmetic exam questions? I wonder what we'll be learning from him. I can't wait to find out. As the day came to an end, Professor Jahan announced, That concludes today's lesson. We'll continue tomorrow. Yes, Professor, the students replied together. When Lee Sunji was about to leave, someone called out from behind. Scholar Lee Sunji. He turned around. Were you calling me? My name is Park Jae-hoon from Jeolla Province. It seems no one in the class likes to talk much. How about we help each other out? Lee Sunji smiled warmly. Glad to meet you. Soon, 2 more students approached. I'm Park Taiwi. And I'm Kim Jungju from Hanyang. Let's be friends. I'm Lee Sunji, he replied. One of them blurted out, You were the top scorer in arithmetic, right? Please help me out. I didn't understand a thing today. Lee Sunji laughed. I'd be happy to help. Meanwhile, a group of students watched from afar with discontent. With talent like that, how irritating to see it come from someone of such a humble background. That night, in the Institute's conference room, Hyang met with the senior members to discuss the day's events. Today was the first day of class, Hyang began. What are your overall impressions? Since it's the first day, everyone seemed highly enthusiastic. There were no major issues, Your Highness, one of them replied. Professor Jahan added, Scholar Lee Sunji's understanding is exceptional. I believe my younger brother, who's currently on a business trip, would enjoy meeting him. Jung Inji also praised him. His skill is indeed remarkable. The other students naturally gravitate toward him, often seeking his help. Hyang stroked his chin thoughtfully. If they can motivate one another to grow, that's a good thing. But of course, envy is inevitable. I trust you'll all guide them wisely, so each student has the chance to reach their full potential. Everyone responded in unison. Yes, Your Highness. The next morning, Professor Jahan stacked a pile of papers on his desk and said, This week has been quite a challenge for all of you. You've worked hard on this exam. With that, the Hindu numerals class is officially complete. The students groaned. That was insanely hard. Even tougher than the second exam, said Kim Jungju. I agree. Way harder than I expected, added Park Taiwi. Kim Jungju turned to Lee Sunji. But I managed to finish everything thanks to Scholar Sunji's help. Thank you. Sunji smiled and replied, Don't mention it. I learned a lot by helping you too, Han Yonggu sneered. We don't even have our results yet. Why are you acting so proud already? Suddenly, Professor Jahan cleared his throat and spoke up. I heard that. Lee Sunji, you were the top student in class, and you also helped your peers improve their studies. Yonggu's face twisted in frustration, but before he could say anything, Jahan's tone grew firmer. The Hindu numerals course may be over, but some of you still haven't grasped the concepts. Anyone scoring below 40 must attend supplementary lessons. If you fail to improve, you'll be expelled. The class fell silent, stunned by the announcement. Professor Jahan continued, This afternoon, we'll begin special training. It will be far more difficult than Hindu numerals. You must complete it successfully. Don't give up halfway. I hope we can meet again as colleagues in the Research Institute. Lee Sunji smiled and answered, Yes, Professor. In his heart, he thought, At first I doubted him because of his foreign background and his broken Korean, but now I realize numbers and symbols are universal. They transcend language and connect people across cultures. We then shift to Hyang, reviewing the exam results. Professor Jahan, sitting across from him, reported, I made the exam harder than the second one, but no one scored below 40, thanks to Lee Sunji. Determined, Hyang clenched his fist. In that case, let's push them even further. Strengthen the special training and raise the standard. Yes, Your Highness, Jahan replied. Suddenly, the classroom doors swung open, startling the students. What's happening? Someone murmured. The deputy head of the institute watched as a man carrying a large stack of books entered the room. All right, place them on the desk. You've done well, he said. The man bowed. It's no trouble at all. If you need anything else, please call for me. The students exchanged puzzled looks as the two spoke so familiarly with each other. Then the deputy head placed his hand on the pile of books and addressed the scholars. It's been quite some time since your first day here. As deputy head, I'll now be directly overseeing your special training. From today onward, I'll supervise you personally. Step forward and take one book each. He continued, These books contain records about the recovery process after last year's major flood. However, much of the data is inaccurate. Your first task is to analyze the errors, explain the reasons for correction, and compile a report. You'll be given plenty of time, so be thorough. With a bright smile, Lee Sunji immediately dove into his work. But nearby, Park Jae-hoon pushed back his chair and stood up. I can't do this anymore. I give up. Kim Jungju quickly patted his shoulder, trying to calm him down. Hey, relax. If you want to work in the royal palace, you've got to hang in there. It's only been an hour and you're already quitting? Just then, Lee Sunji rose from his seat. His voice was calm, yet firm. You need to convert the totals into ratios, then reverse the calculation. Focus on the smaller numbers, not the big ones. After helping Jae-hoon, Sunji walked up to the front and handed in his work. Professor, I've completed the task, he said confidently. The deputy head nodded. Good. I'll review it. You may return to your seat, but instead of sitting down, Lee Sunji began walking around the room, helping his classmates one by one. This part should be done like this, and for that section, it's better if you calculate it this way, he explained patiently. Watching him, the deputy head thought to himself, no wonder this young man draws so much attention. That night, a voice echoed through the room. These are the results of 3 months of training. Seated with the other members of the Research Institute, Hyang took the evaluation report in his hands. After skimming through it, he said, "These past 3 months must have been extremely difficult for all of you. I won't forget your contributions." The deputy head and Jung Inji quickly replied, "Please don't say that, Your Highness. This experience has been invaluable to us. Besides, everything we've done is for the future of the Institute, and for Joseon." Hyang turned to them and nodded. "Thank you for saying that. How is the progress of the special training? Is everything proceeding smoothly?" The deputy head stroked his beard and replied, "As per Your Highness's orders, the students have been applying their skills directly to real-world cases. They analyzed and interpreted last year's data. Even during the special training, Lee Sunji truly stood out as an expert in arithmetic. He often helped struggling students and even organized study groups so they could support each other." Professor Jahan added, "During the Hindu numerals and basic arithmetic courses, Sunji guided the weaker students until they made remarkable progress. Those who once required remedial classes are now performing much better, and it's all thanks to him." Hyang murmured to himself, "Study groups, huh?" Then he said aloud, "That's wonderful news. So the only thing left now is their official appointment, correct?" Jung Inji nodded. "Yes, that's right. The students will gain practical experience in various departments over the next 3 months. After that, they'll receive official appointments based on their individual performance." Pleased, Hyang smiled. A 3-month internship, this kind of procedure has existed since the days of Joseon. Suddenly, the deputy head tilted his head in confusion. "Internship? What do you mean by that?" Hyang froze for a moment, realizing he had spoken without thinking. Trying to cover it up, he replied, a bit awkwardly, Well, it simply refers to a system where seniors and juniors work together and train for 3 months." 3-month internship, huh? "That sounds good," someone commented. Another added, "Let's make that the official name for the process." But Hyang wasn't really listening. He turned his head aside and lightly tapped his lips, scolding himself internally. "This mouth of mine, I really need to stop using modern terms." The deputy director then looked at the crown prince seriously. "Your Highness, although they're still in their probationary period, should their titles and access rights to Area 51 also be granted? I mentioned it in my report, but I thought it best for you to make the decision." At that, Hyang's expression turned serious again. "The students will be assigned to different departments for observation, but there's no reason to allow them access to Area 51. We'll only select 4 individuals for now. Most importantly, Scholar Lee Sunji." The deputy director nodded. "Understood. Then, what rank should we assign to Lee Sunji?" The next morning, inside the royal audience hall, King Sejong was reviewing several petitions. His eyes narrowed as he read one particular report. With a hint of surprise, he muttered, "A scholar who just completed training is being granted the 5th rank? Isn't that excessive?" Hyang calmly replied. "Scholars from the Royal Academy are typically granted the 6th rank, so—" But before he could finish, King Sejong cut him off. "That's exactly my point. If even the top scholars only reach the 6th rank, don't you think giving someone the 5th rank is too high?" Hyang bowed respectfully. "I believe he deserves that rank, Father." But King Sejong remained unconvinced. "If this is based solely on academic performance, it's not enough to be called an achievement. If you want to grant him a higher rank, first show me something tangible that he's accomplished. The highest rank I've ever granted to a scholar is the 6th. He raised his hand, gesturing for Hyang to stop speaking. "I know you're intelligent and diligent in your duties. But there's one thing that matters above all: fairness." Hyang listened carefully. "Lee Sunji, as you said, may indeed be gifted. But if you give him the 5th rank, do you truly believe the officials from other departments will accept it?" Hyang froze. His father's words opened his eyes to something he hadn't considered before. "They won't recognize his talent," continued King Sejong. "Instead, they'll think he received the 5th rank only because he's part of your research institute. Were it not for that issue, I wouldn't hesitate to approve your request. But under these circumstances, I have no choice but to assign him the 6th rank. You understand why, don't you?" Though a little disappointed, Hyang lowered his head. "Yes, Father. I'll follow your decision." King Sejong gazed at him in silence, then said, "Good. As king, it's my duty not only to govern the people, but to ensure that justice is upheld." In the end, Lee Sunji received the 6th rank, not the 5th. Still, he was recognized as the highest achieving scholar in the institute and one of the top graduates of the special training program. The 3-month internship was divided into several groups, each led by one senior scholar with 2 or 3 new recruits. Lee Sunji was assigned to the second group, tasked with undergoing special training inside Area 51. The day after receiving his title, Lee Sunji followed his senior to an unknown location. "Professor, where are we going?" he asked. The senior ahead of him turned and smiled faintly. "I'm no longer a professor," he said. "Training is over. Just call me Senior Jung. This was a special policy from the Crown Prince himself. Here, everyone is free to express their ideas. Titles and age don't matter. The only thing that determines your worth here is your ability." The new recruits exchanged surprised glances. As they approached a heavily guarded section, the senior announced, "This is our destination, Area 51. The massive doors began to open slowly, and 2 guards stood at attention. "Salute!" they shouted. From within, Hyang emerged with a warm smile. "Welcome, my rising stars," he greeted. All the juniors immediately bowed. "Greetings, Your Highness, the Crown Prince." "No need to be so formal," Hyang said, waving his hand casually. He held up a golden badge. "Without this, no one can enter Area 51, so don't lose it." He turned to face them and said firmly, "This place is the foundation of my dream, to build the Joseon I envision. I hope you'll all help me make that dream a reality." Lee Sunji smiled and began to speak. "Your Highness." But before he could continue, the group noticed something strange. As soon as they entered, the guards shut the massive doors behind them and locked them tight. Lee Sunji frowned. "There's another door even after we've already passed one. What kind of place is this, that it needs such heavy security?" Hyang then led them down a quiet road across an open field. They arrived at a clearing, and suddenly the crack of gunfire split the air. The juniors flinched, some stepping back, some covering their ears. Ahead, soldiers were firing weapons. Something streaked across the sky, then, boom! A massive explosion rocked the forest before them. The trainees gaped, mouths hanging open in disbelief. Hyang watched their reactions with a small smile. Even as the blast still echoed behind him, he spread his arms and said calmly, "Welcome to Area 51. Soon after, General Choi Hae-sun approached. "I am Choi Hae-sun, the officer responsible for overseeing your work in Area 51, he announced. In a serious tone, he continued, "A nation's true strength lies in its defense, and the foundation of that defense is its weaponry. You must understand our weapon systems thoroughly and find ways to improve them." The juniors nodded in agreement. In the days that followed, they underwent intense training. They learned to operate firearms and cannons and to understand the construction of various weapons. Every day they ran about collecting materials, testing weapons, and recording their findings. By the end of each day they were exhausted. One junior sat in a corner, panting. "My God, finally finished." Another muttered, "The research institute was hard enough, but Area 51 is insane. I've been here a month and only get to go home a few days." A different student complained, "I feel like I'll die if I keep working like this." Suddenly a window slammed open. "Leave if you can't handle it," a voice barked. All the juniors snapped their heads toward the sound. Senior Jung stood there, looking irritated. He addressed them sharply. "We only need people who want to be here. Better a few who work hard than newcomers who drag everyone down. Don't treat this task as a burden. Find enjoyment in it. If you do well, not only will the Crown Prince notice you, but the king himself will reward you," Senior Jung admonished. Then Lee Sunji's voice called out. Senior Jung glanced inside. "Lee Sunji, are you finished?" "He's always like that, working non-stop like a madman," someone muttered. In another corner, Yonggu, clearly annoyed, crossed his arms and whispered bitterly, "I really don't like that kid." One day at the institute, Yonggu saw Lee Sunji walking cheerfully, carrying a stack of thick documents. With a sneer, Yonggu asked, "Where are you rushing off to?" Lee Sunji smiled warmly. "Oh, aren't you assigned to the research institute today too?" Yonggu and a few others began to jeer. "I wonder if he eats the same food as us," one taunted. Yonggu added, "Of course he's different. He must eat strange things in that odd family of his." He raised his voice on purpose so Lee Sunji could hear. "You'll turn out odd if you're born of strange blood," Yonggu sneered. Lee Sunji suddenly stopped. His fingers clenched so tight the pages of his books went white. Veins stood out on his arms. He turned slightly, his voice cold and sharp. "Just wait, I'll make you pay for this." Elsewhere, Hyang spoke quietly with Jung Inji. "What do you mean by that?" he asked. The head of research bowed his head a little before answering. "Well, Your Highness, researcher Lee Sunji should have been appointed officially from the start. It may seem too soon, but in my opinion, Your Highness should consider making him a formal official." Realizing how serious the matter was, Hyang nodded slowly. Still, he hesitated. "It's only been a month. The internship is supposed to last 3 months. Is he truly deserving enough that we should bend the rules?" Jung Inji bowed. "Your Highness, his ability far surpasses that of other researchers. However, because he is still a trainee, his work is limited." Hyang fell silent, supporting his chin with his hand and thinking deeply. "Then we must make the best use of his talent." After a moment, Hyang looked at Jung Inji and said, "I trust your judgment. If you oversee his development, I will accelerate the process as quickly as possible." "Thank you, Your Highness," Jung Inji replied. That day inside the Research Institute, a commanding voice echoed through the hall. "Today, we'll be conducting an evaluation. We'll start by reorganizing the teams." Suddenly, Kim Jung-ju and Park Jae-hoon spoke up. "Excuse us, but Lee Sunji hasn't arrived yet," they said. The head of the institute, Jung Inji, smiled faintly. "Ah, don't worry. Starting today, Lee Sunji will be assigned to a different task." In the corner of the room, Yonggu felt a surge of excitement. "Finally, that thorn in my side is gone." He tried to suppress his laughter, but the smug grin on his face gave him away. "Without him here, I'm the top trainee now. This is my chance to prove myself." But his joy was short-lived. His expression froze in disbelief as he spotted Lee Sunji sitting confidently in the supervisor's seat. Noticing Yonggu's shock, Sunji looked at him calmly. "Why do you look so surprised?" he asked in a tone that was casual yet cutting. "Is something on your mind?" Yonggu couldn't say a word. Sunji smiled faintly. Starting today, I've been officially appointed as a researcher. My first assignment is to review all of your work. Yongu's eyes widened in disbelief. This is ridiculous! Impossible! Sunji stood up and snatched the report straight from Yongu's hands. If you have any objections or complaints, you're free to file them. But remember, the Crown Prince is a very busy man. So, if you're going to do it, make it quick. He leaned back in his chair, flipping through the report he had just taken. Without my approval, this report isn't going anywhere. Meanwhile, Yongu's fists clenched tightly, his anger boiling beneath the surface. Sunji began reading carefully. Let's see how your calculations turned out. After a moment, he shook his head and pointed to a section. You miscalculated here. That's impossible, Yongu protested immediately. Are you deliberately trying to find fault with my work? Sunji remained perfectly calm. I'll show you the correct formula. You should have calculated it this way. After demonstrating, he added with a mocking tone, I can't believe you made such a simple mistake. What were you thinking about while doing this? Some prostitute, perhaps? 3 months passed quickly. Hyang addressed the gathering. Today, our special council welcomes several new members. They may be a little different, but I'm grateful that you've all accepted them. The deputy head smiled and replied, Understood, Your Highness. Anyone with abilities like Lee Sunji deserves a warm welcome. Thanks to all of you, the vacant positions have finally been filled. Now, we can focus on the long-awaited project, creating Joseon's very own calendar. This video ends here, but the story isn't over yet. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next part.